It's a quiet morning in the bustling airport terminal, the hum of travelers and distant chatter filling the air. The sun has barely risen, and the terminal is still calm. People go about their usual business, checking in, grabbing coffee, and preparing for their flights. The rhythm of it all is peaceful, ordinary even. But in the midst of the routine, something is about to happen that will shake everything to its core. Talia Porter, a dignified woman in her 60s, steps into the scene. With every stride, she exudes an aura of composure, her face a picture of quiet strength. She moves through the terminal like someone who has seen it all, someone who knows how to handle herself in any situation. Talia is no ordinary traveler. She's a retired CIA agent, with years of experience navigating the complexities of the world's darkest corners. But today, she's about to face something far more sinister than she could have imagined. Unbeknownst to her, two overzealous airport security officers, Carter and Sullivan, stand nearby, their eyes scanning the crowd. Carter, tall and brimming with overconfidence, is the first to notice Talia as she walks past the security checkpoint. Sullivan, his partner, isn't far behind. They exchange glances, their instincts shaped by racial prejudice, as they start to focus on her. Something about her seems to set them off. Maybe it's the way she carries herself, calm, collected, almost too composed for someone traveling alone. Or maybe it's the color of her skin. Whatever the reason, they've decided she's a target. If you believe everyone should be treated with due respect and never be overlooked, irrespective of their race or skin color, hit the subscribe button and share your thoughts in the comments below. As Talia approaches the security line, she has no idea that these two officers have already made up their minds about her. She doesn't know that she's about to become a victim of racial profiling, a setup designed to break her composure and force her into a corner. But even if she did, it wouldn't matter. Talia Porter has faced far worse, and she knows how to stay one step ahead. What these officers don't realize is that the woman they are about to confront has the skills, the intelligence, and the experience to turn their whole world upside down. What should have been a simple, routine security screening suddenly takes an unexpected and dangerous turn. As Talia steps forward, confident and collected, the two officers exchange a quick glance. There's no reason for them to stop her, no sign of any wrongdoing, but something about her catches their eye. Officer Carter, with his chest puffed out, steps forward, his voice now commanding. "Excuse me," he says, cutting through the hum of the terminal. "We need to ask you to step aside for further screening." Talia's brow furrows slightly as she calmly complies. She's been through this many times before, and she knows the drill. But as she follows him toward a secluded part of the checkpoint, a gut feeling tells her something's wrong. There's no real reason for this. She's done nothing wrong. Carter, eager to prove himself, stands a little too close as he begins questioning her. His tone, though polite on the surface, is sharp, his eyes scanning her every move. "Do you know why we're stopping you?" he asks, his words tinged with a thinly veiled suspicion. Talia meets his gaze with a calm and steady expression. "No, officer, I don't," she responds, keeping her voice even, though inside, she's already analyzing the situation. Her mind runs through the possibilities. There's no reason for this, nothing to suggest she's done anything wrong. Officer Sullivan, meanwhile, hangs back, his eyes scanning Talia's belongings with increasing scrutiny. His expression hardens as he looks at the contents of her bag. He glances at Carter, a silent agreement passing between them. Without warning, they begin to dig deeper. Sullivan pulls out her items one by one, shoving them aside with force. It's obvious now, this isn't just a routine check. They are looking for something. Or more accurately, they are planting something. Talia watches, her pulse steady, her breath measured. She knows what's happening here. The bag of powder that Sullivan has just discovered wasn't there when she packed her belongings. It's been placed deliberately. She doesn't flinch, doesn't let on that she's noticed. But in that moment, her mind shifts into high gear. She remains calm, composed, giving nothing away. Officer Carter steps forward again, now speaking with more authority, his voice thick with the assumption of guilt. "We found illegal substances in your bag," he announces, his eyes darting between Talia and Sullivan. "You're under arrest for possession and trafficking." Talia's gaze locks with his, a silent challenge passing between them. Her voice remains calm, her words calculated. "I've never seen that before," she says, her eyes fixed firmly on Carter. "That's not mine." The officers exchange a glance. They believe they've caught her. They're convinced that she's just another person they can manipulate, another innocent black woman to accuse of something she didn't do. They think they are in control. But Talia Porter, despite her outward calm, knows exactly what they are up to. Her training has kicked in. She's seen this game before, this manipulation, this planting of evidence. She's faced high-stakes situations. But this is nothing new. She's been trained to handle situations like this with precision. And they, the officers, have underestimated her. As Carter moves to handcuff her, his fingers brushing the cuffs with a sense of finality, Talia stands still, her posture unyielding, her mind calculating the next move. She knows that the situation has escalated beyond what they can handle. They've made their play, but they've only revealed their hand too early. They think they've trapped her. They believe that their aggressive behavior, their planted evidence, will be enough to make her crack. What they don't know is that Talia isn't just any ordinary woman. She's seen far worse than this, and her composure is more dangerous than they could ever imagine. With every step they take, every word they utter, Talia's resolve strengthens. She knows the truth will come out, eventually. The game is set. The stakes are high, and the officers, blinded by their overconfidence and racial prejudice, are walking straight into her trap. But they can't see it. Not yet. Talia keeps her eyes on them as they move around her, their overconfidence starting to show. They believe they've caught her in the act, convinced that they've framed her well enough to make the charges stick. They don't realize that Talia is already a step ahead, quietly gathering evidence of her own, preparing to expose their lies. The tension in the air is thick, but Talia's calm remains unshaken. She's about to turn this whole situation on its head, and they don't even know it yet. Talia's mind races as she watches the officer's actions unfold, her years of training kicking in with precision. The pieces of the puzzle fall into place, and she knows exactly what's happening. The officers are framing her. They planted the evidence, but it's not just about the bag of powder. They are creating a narrative, one that they believe will be too easy to sell to the authorities. They think they've set the perfect trap, one that will ensure her guilt in front of a judge. But Talia Porter is not just a random traveler. She's not some ordinary woman who will be intimidated by their game. Her eyes flicker over the scene as Officer Sullivan rummages through her belongings, his movements increasingly erratic as he tries to find more evidence. Every inch of the terminal is being scrutinized by the officers, but none of it is real, none of it is based on truth. And Talia sees it all. She's calm, unnervingly calm, while the chaos around her intensifies. As Carter and Sullivan continue their misguided search, Talia's fingers subtly trace the edge of her bag, brushing against a small, hidden tracker she placed there earlier, just in case. It's a small, inconspicuous device, easy to overlook, but it's there, sending out a signal to her team. She doesn't flinch, doesn't blink, but she knows that the wheels are in motion now. Her team is aware, and they are already planning their next move. Her mind works like clockwork, evaluating the situation. The officers are making more mistakes than they realize, and every one of their actions is giving Talia the leverage she needs. She lets them continue their false accusations, knowing full well that their confidence will be their undoing. The more they dig, the more they expose themselves. But it's her calmness, her refusal to react in anger, that drives Sullivan crazy. He grows more and more frustrated with her stoic demeanor, his voice rising with each new accusation. "Do you think we're just going to let you get away with this?" Sullivan snaps, his face reddening. His clearly rattled, and his attempt to intimidate her only highlights his growing desperation. But Talia doesn't bite. She doesn't respond with anger or even defiance. She simply keeps her eyes on him, unflinching, her calmness the very thing that infuriates him further. Carter, meanwhile, continues to play his part, trying to act as though everything is under control. But Talia knows the truth. His attempts to control the situation are faltering. She can see it in the way his eyes dart nervously, the subtle shift in his body language as he begins to question whether they've gone too far. His earlier confidence is starting to crack, but is too far gone now to pull back. They are both in this mess together, and they can't escape. As they try to escalate the situation, Talia keeps her movements deliberate and slow. Her hands are steady, her breathing even. She knows how to play the game, how to be seen without giving too much away. As Sullivan's frustration grows, Talia watches his every move, noting the discrepancies, the subtle signs of their fabrication. Every small detail is adding up, and she's quietly documenting it all in her mind. She knows she has to stay in control, stay one step ahead, and she does. Every action she takes is calculated, leaving nothing to chance. Her eyes flick briefly to the camera mounted above, ensuring that everything is being recorded. Her mind runs through the checklist. If the authorities or her team later need proof, it will be there, crystal clear. Even as they accuse her, she knows this is the moment when the power shifts. Her calmness isn't just a shield, it's a weapon, and she's about to use it to expose them all. They think they've trapped her. They believe she's just an old woman, someone they can easily manipulate. But the reality is that Talia Porter has already outsmarted them. She's already won. With every word they speak, every wrong move they make, Talia grows closer to the truth being exposed. She's been in countless high-stakes operations, and none of this fazed her. She's been trained to recognize manipulation, to spot corruption, and most importantly, to remain calm when others crumble under pressure. Carter and Sullivan's overconfidence blinds them, and their underestimation of Talia becomes their greatest mistake. As Sullivan's voice grows louder, trying to escalate the situation, Talia stands tall. Her face is a picture of unshakable confidence, her mind already preparing for the next phase of her plan. The more they push, the more they expose themselves. It's only a matter of time before everything unravels. Talia's calmness isn't just about keeping control. It's about watching them make their fatal mistakes. And with each one, she moves closer to her victory. The situation grows more intense with each passing moment. Officer Carter and Sullivan, blinded by their own arrogance, continue to press Talia, convinced they are on the brink of a breakthrough. But with every question they ask, every accusation they throw her way, Talia's resolve only strengthens. She's collecting the pieces, watching, waiting, and documenting. The subtle manipulations of the officers don't escape her trained eye. She knows exactly what they are doing, and she's already working to expose it. Her calmness is her greatest strength, and with it, she subtly strengthens her case. With every misstep the officers make, Talia marks it in her mind, storing away each tiny detail, each flaw in their story. Their narratives are unraveling, slowly but surely. Talia's demeanor doesn't change. She doesn't lose her composure or raise her voice, but inside, she's assembling the proof she needs to tear their lies apart. It's only a matter of time before the truth comes crashing down on them, and the officers will have no choice but to face the consequences of their actions. Talia's mind races as she calculates the next step. She can't afford to wait any longer. She's not going to let these officers destroy her life with their lies. So, in one fluid motion, she presses a tiny button hidden within her jacket, activating the concealed tracker that has been quietly transmitting signals to her team. It's a small gesture, one that would easily go unnoticed by anyone else. But to her team, it's a signal that the time to act has arrived. Within moments, the authorities begin to take notice. It doesn't take long for the wheels of justice to start turning. As the officers continue to fumble through their false accusations, the phone lines begin to buzz with activity. An investigation is swiftly launched, and soon, the presence of the FBI can be felt. The very foundation of what Carter and Sullivan believed to be an airtight case begins to shake. The officers' actions are now under scrutiny, and the truth they've tried so hard to bury is finally seeing the light of day. The FBI arrives on the scene with the quiet authority that only years of experience can bring. Their presence is undeniable, and Carter and Sullivan are immediately on edge. What they thought was a simple matter of catching a criminal is now a complex web of lies, manipulation, and systemic corruption. They were too blind to see it, too eager to make their mark on the case. But now, they'll have to face the music. As the agents move in, the walls close in on the two officers. The evidence they've fabricated begins to crumble under the weight of the investigation. Talia's team has already gathered everything needed to expose the officers' misconduct. Evidence of their racial profiling, their planted evidence, their abuse of power. And it doesn't stop there. The investigation soon reveals a larger, far-reaching pattern of corruption within airport security, exposing the deep-seated racism that has tainted the system for years. The lies that Carter and Sullivan so confidently believed in unravel at a rapid pace. The officers, who once stood tall, full of pride, are now visibly shaken. They realize, too late, that their actions are no longer hidden. The FBI has seen through their web of deception, and there's no way out. Their careers, their reputations, everything they've worked for is now on the line. Meanwhile, Talia stands in the background, calm and unshaken, watching the chaos unfold. She knows what's coming next. She's already won. Her calmness, her ability to stay ahead of the game, has ensured that justice will prevail. But for her, this victory isn't just about exposing two corrupt officers. It's about something far greater. Dismantling the system that allowed them to act in the first place. As the FBI agents continue their work, the terminal feels different. The atmosphere has shifted. What was once a place of everyday travel is now a battleground for truth and justice. Talia's signal has set the course in motion, and there's no turning back. Carter and Sullivan's lies have come to light, and the systemic corruption they once thought was invincible is now on the verge of crumbling. The wheels of justice are turning, and for the first time, Talia feels the weight of the long battle for equality and fairness begin to tip in her favor. This is only the beginning, but it's a start. A powerful reminder that the truth will always find a way to break through, no matter how deep the lies run. As the investigation gains momentum, the truth begins to spread like wildfire, and Officer Carter and Sullivan's false claims are quickly unraveled in front of their colleagues. The lies they've spun to justify their actions, fabricating evidence and falsely accusing Talia, are now exposed for the world to see. Their overconfidence, their belief that they could manipulate the system to their advantage, has cost them everything. Talia, despite everything they've tried to pin on her, remains calm and composed, a steady force in the whirlwind of chaos. She knows justice is on the way, but she also knows that the officers' downfall isn't just about their lies. It's about a much larger issue. As the investigation continues to peel back the layers of corruption within the airport security system, it becomes clear. The officers were just the tip of the iceberg. The corruption they perpetrated was not an isolated incident. It was part of a much larger pattern of racial profiling and misconduct that had been festering within the department for years. The deeper the investigation goes, the more evidence surfaces. The systemic racism, the unjust targeting of people of color, and the abuse of power are exposed on a scale that no one expected. Carter and Sullivan, once so smug in their position of authority, are now publicly shamed. They are arrested for their actions, planted evidence, false arrests, and the systemic racism they perpetrated. Their careers are destroyed, and the department undergoes a complete overhaul. What they thought would be a minor victory for them has instead shattered their lives. The damage they've done to innocent lives is irreparable, and now they must face the consequences of their actions. But there's one officer whose journey doesn't end in defeat. Officer Keller, the young recruit who had been quietly observing as the events unfolded, begins to feel the weight of his own role in the system. At first, Keller was just a bystander, a rookie caught between the system's expectations and the corrupt actions of his colleagues. But as the truth emerges, something shifts within him. He sees the officers for what they truly are, abusers of power, racists hiding behind their badges, and he can no longer stand by. He begins to question his complicity, the role he's played in maintaining the status quo. His internal struggle doesn't go unnoticed, and as the investigation progresses, Keller starts to find his courage. He becomes an unlikely ally to Talia, not out of obligation, but out of a growing understanding of what it means to fight against the injustices witnessed. Keller steps forward, offering critical information that helps expose the depth of the corruption within the department. His transformation is a testament to the power of awareness and action, and it's a reminder that change isn't always about the loudest voices. It can come from within the system itself, when someone chooses to stand up and do what's right. Talia's journey is one of resilience, and as the case moves forward, she's cleared of all charges. The officers who wrongfully accuse her are now the ones facing trial. The courtroom, once a place of tension and uncertainty, is now a space for justice to prevail. Talia's calm demeanor, the same composure that had so infuriated the officers earlier, is now rewarded. The judge rules in her favor, acknowledging not just her innocence, but the depth of corruption that has been exposed. Talia is vindicated, her name cleared, and the system that tried to trap her has been shown for what it is. Her victory isn't just personal. It's a victory for all those who have been unfairly targeted, for all those who have suffered in silence, and for everyone who has faced systemic oppression. Talia's quiet strength resonates throughout the community, inspiring those who have long struggled against injustice. Her calmness in the face of adversity has become a symbol of the resilience and determination that Black individuals have had to embody in the fight for equality. Talia's victory is not just a triumph of one woman over two corrupt officers. It's a powerful message that no matter how deep the lies or how entrenched the system, truth and justice will always find a way to break through. And in Talia's case, that truth shines brighter than ever, as she becomes a beacon for those who continue the fight against systemic oppression. As the dust settles and the courtroom empties, Talia stands alone for a moment, taking in the weight of everything that has transpired. The tension, the fear, the injustice, it's all behind her now. The officers who tried to frame her are facing the consequences of their actions, and she has been cleared of all charges. But as Talia looks out over the quiet city street, the relief in her heart is tempered with a deeper understanding. Justice has been served, she says softly to herself, her voice carrying a quiet strength. But the battle for true equality is far from over. Talia's mind drifts back to the countless faces she's seen throughout her life, the families, the communities, the people who have suffered from systemic oppression, from the very corruption she just exposed. Her victory today is important, no doubt, but it's just one battle in a much larger war. The fight for justice, for true equality, is ongoing, and Talia knows this is only the beginning. Her victory is not just a personal triumph. It's a beacon of hope for everyone who has ever faced discrimination, for everyone who has ever been unjustly targeted because of their race, their gender, or their background. Talia's resilience, her refusal to back down in the face of overwhelming odds, has shown that systemic corruption can be uncovered, that the truth can shine through even the darkest of lies. But it's also a reminder that the work is far from done. The fight for change requires all of us to stand up, to challenge the status quo, and to expose the injustice we see every day. The message is clear. Change is possible, but only if we choose to fight for it. Talia's story is proof of that. It shows that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, when people come together to demand accountability, change is not just a possibility, it's an inevitability. If this story inspired you, if it reminded you of the power we all hold in the fight for justice, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. Let's continue to challenge injustice, to fight for what's right, and to create a future where everyone is treated equally, no matter the color of their skin or the background they come from. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, Stay united.